This is CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast with Business Solutions MVPs Joel Lindstrom, George Dubinsky, and Sean the CRM Hobbit Tabor. This week we're joined by two other Dynamics MVPs, Guido Priete and Marius Pedersen, also known as the CRM Viking. This episode is sponsored by CRM UG. The user group for Dynamics 365 and CRM community is powered by users, for users, and specializes in the delivery of member-driven education, networking, and events to help you maximize your current Microsoft Dynamics investment. We thank CRM UG for sponsoring this episode of CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast. All right, welcome CRM Audio 68. This is exciting. We have two guests with us this week. We have Guido Priete from Italy, and we also have a baby MVP, Marius, also known as the CRM Viking. So what we needed was more Norse blood on the podcast, and so we asked the Viking to join us.
And in preparation of the podcast, I saw Thor Ragnarok this weekend, so I did my part.
All right, so Marius, you have been MVP since the beginning of November, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or was it October? Okay. Has your world changed? So other big things happened in your life?
Yeah, so it came along with everything else in my life. So new apartment, kids, all that stuff. So I just got everything in 1 month.
Wow. It must have been a lot to take in.
Yes, I completed life in like 2 weeks.
You leveled up like 3 levels. All right. And Guido, what is your how long have you been an MVP and what do you do in your day job?
Yeah, I'm MVP from January 2015. So it's like 3 years now, I think. And mainly I am a developer. So I'm a real developer, not a citizen one. And I work for a partner, so I work for several customers and different projects. So.
All right, so I guess we should knock the common discussion topics out of the way up front. Marius, Mr. Viking, are you a real developer or a citizen developer?
Well, according to Jason, I'm the only one who's got the custom data provider working.
So that would, I think, qualify you as a real developer. What's your opinion on Microsoft Flow?
I'm not ready for this question yet. Yeah, so I think Flow is a great tool, but it's the new poster boy for it depends. So yeah, like there are good arguments, both pro and con, but I think in the long run, it's going to empower users a lot more than the traditional dialogues and background workflows. But at the moment, it's kind of like version 9. It's a great idea.
So yeah, so it depends. It's a great idea. It only gets better from here, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How about you, Guido? What is your what are your favorite development technologies you work with, and how do you feel about Flow?
Honestly, regarding Flow, I have no idea at all. I mean, I never had the chance to play with Flow in deeper ways. So personally, I don't like to work with new technologies that were introduced inside Dynamics. Flow is just an addiction for V9, so there is a long path for me to be ready to use tool for Dynamics. So that is my opinion.
So before you use a new technology, what's your requirement in your own personal requirement before you use a new technology?
Yeah, my personal requirement is that there is at least one stable release. For example, if you consider ASP.NET Core, They released the 1.0 version that they considered stable. After they released the 1.1 that makes some breaking changes. Now there is 2.0. And now I don't know which version they arrived, but I still don't think that is a ready technology for projects to be used in production for me. So depends the tool.
And then version 4.0 brings regression errors that were in 1.1 but got fixed, and now are coming back again.
Exactly.
So speaking of that, where are we with V9? So where we are, it's generally available. You spin up an org, you get it. Nobody's upgraded, and probably won't be for 1 to 2 months from now, from what I'm seeing. So what are you hearing? We heard a lot of issues with it. I've seen some myself. It seems though that they're quickly fixing things, because there's been updates almost every week where something that was an issue. I remember, Guido, you and I kind of had the same problem at the same time, only your error message was in Finnish, mine was in English, but it was basically some issues when you try to change the properties of an entity that had already been created. But then within like 2 or 3 days after that, I noticed that it worked again. So it seems like they're very rapidly pushing out updates and fixing these things. Still a few rough edges, still nobody upgrading, and I think until they're upgrading, they feel confident to start upgrading people. That's when we're at probably the equivalent of what the .1 release
But now,
would have been
can
with
you really say
on-premises.
that it's ready for upgrade when the app for Outlook is still in preview?
No, and that's what my hope is, that they get that done, because you got you deprecate the Outlook client. Now it still works, but nobody's going to want to use the deprecated Outlook client, especially because they turned off the Outlook sync. But yeah, I think that's got to have that in production. Also, things like mobile offline are not yet out, but again, if let's say they upgrade people starting after Christmas, hopefully they'll have those things done to say it's finally ready. And that's probably part of the reason why they're not upgrading people yet.
So given that, Guido, are you going to wait for the next release before the next full release, or are you looking for certain hot fixes or Outlook to be out of preview before you would start implementing V9?
We have already one customer that is already started with V9, and as far as now is going good. I mean, it's just not, it's the pre-production phase, so they are testing to be ready for production. So, and for their use, it looks okay, V9. But for other customers for online deployment, we are still switching to 8.2. We are kind of worried, maybe some kind of blocking bug will happen, like export or something, and some customers are more worried about that. So we will try to delay as possible the upgrade to V9. We are lucky that this is an online only release, because if this was on premise, was not easy.
I guess another question then would be, do you feel in V9 ready to roll out the unified interface as the primary interface, or do you think for most deployments you'll stick with the web UI and wait till the next release of the unified interface?
I just had a discussion with a workmate this afternoon regarding the unified interface, and the problem is that he was not aware of the unified interface, because I think also Microsoft didn't explain correctly that will be the future of CRM, of Dynamics. And personally, I think it's not ready yet. Too many pieces are missing. For example, advanced find is missing. That is the most important piece, in my opinion, because there is relevant search there, is working, but advanced find is another level. So
yeah, and can't create emails. So there are a few things, and that's what has me itching, because I really like the unified interface. I really like it on mobile. I like being able to use some of the mobile controls on the web and have the video preview or even like the signature control if you wanted to. I like the dashboards a lot better. There are some really cool stuff in the dashboards that I guess we inherited from the Interactive Service Hub, but still dashboards to me are significantly better in unified interface. But those limitations give me pause, and it's just this in between state where right now it really makes me look forward to when those remaining gaps. How about you, Mr. Viking? When you're sitting on the fjords in the long cold Nordic nights, what do the companies in Norway, are they cutting edge, or are they at the back of the Warhammer?
Well, but let's just say they're still sticking to their old Viking ships. There's not a big push for the modern stuff yet, and I guess I'm mostly to blame, being the only MVP in Norway. But no, it's not a big push for the new stuff yet. But in my opinion,
So what you're saying is Norwegian companies are excited about connections and
yeah.
goals
So
right now.
right now it's like you can do that in Outlook. Wow. And then I show up and say, no, you can't do that anymore. But I'm really
Right.
excited about the V9. Like virtual entities are going to solve 90% of the problems I face as a developer, and the unified interface is the next natural step, I believe. The portfolio is so big now, so being able to build a nice looking app from the home.dynamics portal is going to be the natural step from thinking of sales and customer service and project service and so on as separate areas. So now
Yeah, for sure. So George, what do you think?
Just poking the
Marius
bear.
says that virtual entities are going to solve 90% of the problems. Are they going to introduce? Are they going to introduce 30% more problems with connection speeds? What are we seeing in real world? Have any of you gotten real world metrics on if you do a virtual entity? What's the performance? What are the limitations?
the only provider available for us right now is the OData provider, and of course you can create your own custom provider, which everyone is having issues with. So the thing that I'm really excited about is that the provider is for OData, it's OData version 4, which was an issue when I first tried to use it because SharePoint is just OData version 3, because those are modern guys with lists and everything. But it turns out that the Microsoft Graph API is OData version 4. So using API keys, you can actually integrate Dynamics with the Graph API.
So what's going to be the go-to solution if you have a data source that is not OData? Are people going to write a custom connector to it? Are they going to move that data to Azure? What do you think is going to be the best practice recommendation for I want to use virtual entities, but I'm dealing with a data source that doesn't have an OData 4 connection?
Well, if you go into Advanced Find and check virtual data providers, you can see that there are 3 more which aren't available to select when you create a new data source. So you could, they're probably going to activate it early next year, I hope. And one of them is a SQL connector.
Yeah, that's what's missing.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah, so it's there. So if you go through Advanced Find and check for it, then you can find that there is a SQL connector there. It's just not possible to select it.
Not only are you a Viking.
Hold on, SQL connector to Azure SQL?
Yeah, you haven't seen it?
To Azure SQL, okay.
It's not activated yet, but Marius found it via advanced find. So not only is he a Viking, he's also a detective Viking.
He's a true explorer.
Yeah, the Vikings, the Norwegian Vikings found Greenland and went to the US.
That's right.
Absolutely, Leif Erikson, my hero. So who here has played with the Outlook app with V9?
I have.
Yeah, I've been playing with that as well as demoing it. It's still in preview, but it is, I think, a significant improvement. And the key things they've done that I think really make it appealing are, number one is you can customize it. So when you select a contact or you have an email from someone, it's basically a dashboard, and there's an Outlook dashboard that you can configure. So if you have custom entities, even things coming from virtual entities, you can display it in there. You also can search CRM and come close to the experience of using CRM from within Outlook if you want to. And to me, it really closes the gap for people who are still on the Outlook client. I really like it. It looks good too.
Well, I think we might disagree on the looks good part.
Well, there's a couple of things, like, for example, when you look at a contact that uses the account card and contact card, I find it interesting those fields don't have labels on them. So unless you know what the fields are,
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the being able to change what is displayed makes it better than the Outlook client.
Yeah, and I also, so the base interface with the home buttons and so on, I'm not a big fan, but there are some great stuff, like when you open up the Dynamics add-in for, or not add-in, but yeah, app for an email, it fades in this notification that create a contact to avoid duplicates. So they've done some UI styling which isn't as rigid as they used to be, and I like that there are. It's still borderless, but it feels more like there are borders, like they used to be in CRM 2016 ages ago. Yeah.
Right.
But it is in preview, and if you try to do stuff like create new opportunities, you get a script error in Outlook. But if you open it in Outlook web app, then no script errors.
Right. So for both Guido and Marius, I've had conversations with Gustav Westerlund in Switzerland, another great MVP, and he has complained about localization because Swedish is such a minority language compared to English, French, German. Is it the same way in Norway, or Guido, you work for a Finnish partner? Do you find odd localization translations in V9?
Personally, I can't speak for Finnish because I don't speak Finnish, so all looks to me like it's an unknown language. So they can write what they want. The translation team, they don't affect me. But I heard that there is some changes between the unified client and the web version about some naming. But I think people need to submit their correction to the product team in some way, because if they're not aware of these translation errors, they will always be there. Need to really send feedback about that.
Yeah, so I believe they changed the name for account.
What did they change it to?
Yeah, because the normal word for account in Finnish is asiakasas. Sorry for the pronunciation, and they changed it to tili. That tili normally is used for bank accounts,
that is
not
different
for accounts. So
it smells like being.
Well, that does have a very different definition.
I think it would be the same as if in English you suddenly change customer to something like purchaser. or something like that. So it's really imprecise. And I know, like I looked at, for example, Russian translations, and sometimes they do go a bit funny. I suspect what happens is that they do the first round of translations using like human beings, you know what they're talking about. But then small corrections, they kind of use Bing Auto Translate or Google Auto Translate, and they start correcting those things without giving it a second thought. So the second round usually starts introducing some funny words and incorrect, imprecise translations. Let's put it this way. So there's cultural.
Right. Well,
Look, I have absolutely deep respect for Finnish language, right? So the language where there is a word for sitting at home in your underwear, drinking without the intent of going out, and that's a single word. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I'm going to get it wrong. When we've got Yuka on the podcast, we'll ask him again. But there is such a word expressing this exact mood. I'm sure, Hobbit, you're familiar with that mood. It's like this is.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
there's a word for that in English too. It's called unemployed.
For me, it's called Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the other question that every guest has to answer. Top XRM toolbox tools, and you can vote for your own if you want.
I can start. For me, it's a Fetch XML builder from Jonas Rapp. It's very valuable for my work. I mean, it's an advanced find. It's a super advanced find. Right? You can query what you want. You can get easily link entities, deep link entities. You can convert your fetch in C# code. Is a great tool. I mean, most of my work I use that tool.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Viking?
Well, I am going to pay tribute to Mr. Duro for making my life easier for so many years. So it's a ribbon workbench for me.
Yeah, absolutely. What about what are you using for sitemaps now that we have the app designer? Are you still using the XRM toolbox primarily sitemap designer, or are you using
Come on, guys,
the app
don't let me
designer
down.
sitemap?
Notepad, say Notepad.
So when Notepad doesn't work,
It's happening.
Yeah, I still use the sitemap editor from XRM Toolbox. The reason is that I can easily copy and paste some part because there is a button to show the XML and you can copy and paste the XML in the definition. So it's very easy to move the ribbons, the links to the sitemap from one sitemap to another. It's super easy with the sitemap editor, not with the built-in designer.
Right.
Yeah.
And a couple other reasons to use the XRM Toolbox version as well. We found that if you have disabled some sitemap areas, like let's say you have field service installed, and you say, you know what, I'm not going to use field service, so you comment it out in Notepad or disable it in the XRM Toolbox, then you edit the sitemap in the app designer, it will remove all those commented out sections, which can be a big pain then if you want to put them back.
Yeah. So, and that used to happen with upgrades as well. So if you edited the sitemap and you upgraded from 2013 to 2015, then none of the new sitemap items were there.
And I'm a fan of the reset button too. So you mess things up royally, you can restore back to the default with the XRM Toolbox sitemap editor.
That's why you use Notepad. It's so easy to take backups.
So, folks, what's I like the reference when you stuff up things royally. What was the most royal stuff up you had in your instance? Like, what have you done? And whether you recovered or not.
Oh, back in my days when I was an architect, I have made it so CRM couldn't open at all, and I had to figure out what the customization link was. Haven't done anything like that lately, but I haven't been doing as much customization either, so that's probably why.
You guys?
So,
Guido, Marius, I'm sure you deployed the plugin that brought CRM to its knees.
well, are we talking supported or do we include unsupported?
Everything. Like, what have you done where customer went, what? And it's like, bring it back. And you say, I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah. So, you remember CRM4 had a deletion service?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we use that as a restore job. So
it already sounds funny. Using deletion service as a restore job. Yeah, that's
yeah.
That
No,
goes
the
down well,
functionality.
usually.
Yeah. So so the is deleted column turned into a nice way to. We had plugins that access the database directly. So you could get a nice interface in CRM for restoring stuff that had been deleted but not properly deleted yet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, go on. That sounds exciting.
It really wasn't, because it caused deadlocks, so you could deadlock yourself.
Oh, I was hoping someone run a SQL statement set is deleted to 1 across the whole database.
Oh yeah, we did that. That was early in development, but
No, in production
backup.
that would be nice. That would be funny, right? And no immediate backup.
Yeah, no.
Yep.
My worst was thanks to a an update roll up in CRM4. Update roll up 7. We tested it in our lower environments, worked fine. Deployed it in production, brought it down for 3 days. We couldn't even restore it because our lower environments were patched. So yeah, fantastic.
I like the people who mess up their entire contact database with the import utility by sorting the spreadsheet, but don't sorting a single column so the last names and first names are all mismatched.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually messed up. No, I didn't. I never messed up, of course. But, I've heard rumors about someone messing up a production environment by upgrading to 2011, and you had this setting you could put to delay the merging of tables, because they merged the base table and the extension table in that rollup. And someone, not me, of course, didn't read the part about the database being read-only. So the upgrade went fine and everything looked very nice. So we just said, oh, okay, ready for production. So it just sat there for 3 days, and on Monday, it's production time and nobody could update any data.
Well, you never have to worry about data going bad that way.
Well, you had 4 days of automatic emails backing up.
It's like a CRM museum.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just look at the data. Don't touch it.
So what is the deal with the developer documentation for V9? As I understand it, there really isn't an SDK anymore. It's all broken up into different pieces. What's going on there? Are we real developers?
Yeah, does that bother you, or did they break it up in a way that made sense?
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to be honest about this, because someone from Microsoft might hear this.
Now, Guido, you need to say that in Italian, because Italian is the language of opera, and you got tragic operas where everybody dies, and so say it's a tragedy, but do it in Italian, please.
È una tragedia.
He sounds so much
It
sadder.
did, didn't it?
Still auditor on here.
Yeah. No, it's a strange situation because I appreciate the efforts they are doing to consolidate the documentation. No? They are doing a very good job for the new site to consolidate, to provide one place for the information. But they decide, okay, we don't ship anymore the SDK. I know that maybe 90% of CRM Dynamics world don't care about the SDK, but the 10% cares. And there are still some important missing pieces that are not published there outside that were present inside the SDK. Like, for example, inside the SDK, there was an entity metadata Excel file where you can go and check directly, okay, which are the standard attribute of one entity and their type, if they can be used for create or for update. So this information is missing, for example, and is important.
Yeah, also small stuff like there's a lot of examples shipped with the SDK, and the thing about examples with actual code is that they check that it compiled. But the online documentation has a lot of code errors that just you copy and paste it into Visual Studio, and it just says no. Obviously, you can't do this.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, and again, I'm not I never claimed to be a real developer, but there are pieces of the SDK that I've used on a somewhat regular basis. You had tools and utilities in there, like the plugin registration tool.
Right.
You had the configuration data migration tool,
Mhm.
pieces like that. So you just download the SDK, you knew you had it all. Now it's like, how do I know that I have the pieces that I need?
And do you think it was someone who isn't typically familiar with the SDK that looked at it and said, I can't navigate through this. I don't know how to get around and find things. And they were trying to break it up into a conceivably more logical
I don't
method,
think
but just missed the boat.
that's not the case at all. The fact is that building SDK, like taking all the pieces, putting them together, compiling what needs to be compiled, um, zipping it up, testing it, uploading, and things like that, that was humongous task in itself. Every single delay that we had with SDKs in the past, in partial, was caused by this very process. So what they've done, they've broken it down and they used the NuGet platform, which is a good platform for delivering bits and pieces. They use a NuGet platform to deliver. So for example, Joel, if you're not using plugin registration tool, you're never gonna get it. But when you are ready to use it and when you do need that plugin registration tool, you just say, well, give me that tool, and it downloads the latest version. That's where the problem is. It will get you the latest by default. So if you don't know your way around it, and latest version say has a bug in it, you automatically get the buggy version and you don't know until you actually sort of try it. And the process is much quicker, the turnaround much quicker. So not only bugs are getting fixed much quicker, they also get delivered much quicker.
Right. So the sounds like the benefit is by splitting it up, they have more flexibility to more quickly update things. But as a result, you don't know exactly the version you're going to get unless you really know what you're doing. So George, you train developers from time to time. If you're training a new developer, how are you going to tell them which pieces they need? Are there certain core pieces that a developer should just get by default?
Well, no, it's on a need to use basis. So that's the beauty of NuGet. You start, you don't think about libraries. You just bring them in, and you bring the tools when required. It's pretty much all the same as it used to be, except you bring stuff when it's needed, when it's required. Okay, so yeah, look, I honestly I didn't have a chance to train the good good dev class yet, like end to end, since it's been released, since the new SDK went live. So we should get elusive David Yak, who did deliver, I think, one dev class where they used the new SDK. But other than that, look, I don't think it's a big deal. To me, the most important bit, I don't know, Marius, Guido, I don't see the big deal about it. Um, to me, the fact that they reduced the load on building the entire SDK is a good thing. Is a good thing. You need to know, as a developer, you probably need to know how to peg a specific version of any given tool. So if you're happy with the stable version and the new version has bug that's stopping you, you need to be able how to roll things back. Okay, how to get
Yeah,
the
so
specific tool.
yes, I agree with the method that or the things they're trying to do right now. But the thing is that for new developers, existing developers, or for like uh, not as real developers, it's hard to find the tools. It's not like a page, where do I get this? And it's like going to NuGet to get the plugin registration tool isn't very logical for people
But I think it's a
who
good
think
thing.
about.
Remember, I always preach that some tools need to be kept away from the hands of um, you know citizen developers, and plugin registration tool is one of those. The
Well,
the
plugin
better hidden it
registration tool
is,
is
the
also
better it is.
what you use to integrate with Azure Service Bus. So for not real developers like
Yeah,
IT pros, they need a plugin registration tool to add new Service Bus endpoints.
correct. Now, name a developer who knows the words Azure Service Bus, knows what it is, how to integrate with it, and doesn't know where to find plugin registration tool. Seriously, that's like this developer is on its way out, on their way out.
Well, I will speaking for the, I guess you might say, IT pro. I don't want to say citizen developer. Somebody who's a CRM administrator or an SSRS report developer, something like that. There has been useful content in the SDK. For example, to get the list of the entity type codes for system entities, to get the definition around certain system option sets, those types of things. And I'm wondering, where in this new world does that type of documentation live?
Yeah, so that obviously should be on docs.microsoft.com. And that's the second part of my critique, is that it doesn't seem ready yet. It doesn't seem like the information has been run through the proper Q&A. And the comment fields of the documentation is turning out like Facebook. It's just like 100 messages of I can't do this and I can't do that, to people answering now and then. So I really like docs.microsoft.com, but they need another platform for that discussion and that helping and so on. It
No,
turns into a lot of noise.
I think it will be a long process. To me, the gripe I always had with documentation was that I could never figure it out. Should I go to msdn.microsoft.com or should I go to the technet.microsoft.com? You tell me, guys, if you what I would use. I would use search and whatever comes up.
It was muddled. And Docs is going to be supposedly the one place that this stuff is transitioning over to.
And it's a process. Look, give them a break, okay? This journey just began, and just give them a break. So docs.microsoft.com, it looks fine. At least I can find the information. The hierarchy makes sense. So just give it some time.
Yeah,
the dust will settle.
I find it looks good, and the documentation they're putting out, is good. The pieces that are missing, besides some of the ones we talked about, are some of the older version stuff. And like, if you knew where the implementation guide for CRM 2013 was on TechNet, you could very quickly get there. This is a different structure in finding the previous versions, but it's still early days for it. You can still find, Bing or Google. You can still find
Hold on. Don't tell me that you're still looking for CRM 2013 implementation guide.
I had to find something in the 2015, mainly to remember, was this feature there yet? So it's something with business process flow. Like, could we do branching then or not? So I was looking for that.
It comes up every now and then when you're talking about something. And this feature was introduced in 20, and then the long pause 13. No, 2015 update
It
1.
gets really
No.
it
Was
gets
it
really
2016?
confusing when you factor in things they previewed in 2015 update 1, released in 2016, and then what was in 8.2. Anyway, all right. So before we go, any other tools that anybody's used? I have one that I recommended to George the other day, which is the new version of Firefox Quantum. I had moved away from Firefox, primarily using Google. I found Google, the Chrome, feels more like Edge to me now. They're hiding the extensions. It feels more locked down, probably for security and performance reasons, because the problem with Chrome was it got overloaded with extensions and would eat up all your memory. But Firefox Quantum, I tried, and sometimes new browsers come out with hype that, oh, it's so much faster. It really is. I've seen up to 2 seconds faster loading standard forms and dynamics. I don't think I'm ready to make it my only browser, but I find they've done a good job with it from my week or so of using it. George, what have you seen?
I do see improvements, and what I haven't tried yet. Remember this tip of running things with your graphic card?
Yeah.
That you can do on. I actually haven't tried it on Firefox yet. Let's see if I can run it. The problem was Edge. You can't run it at all. So let me see if I can do Firefox. If I can do a shortcut to a Firefox and run it. Brilliant. Run with. Where's my run with? No, I need a shortcut. Hold on. No, I can't see. I can't see run with the classify and protect. Move to Dropbox. No, open with code pin to start. I can't see running with the graphic card. But then again, something happened. I don't see this on Chrome either. I think I need to restart my machine to get my graphic card back. I promise I'm going to give it a shot. But even now, Firefox does feel faster. There is this factor of that once you forget the browser and then you kind of start rebuilding it, it's got no extensions whatsoever, and no plugins, add-ons, whatever they called. So it's very clean. I reckon if I strip down Chrome, and I have stripped down Chrome in profiles, it's actually much faster. It's the plugins and add-ons and extensions. They eat up all the memory and resources and sometimes make things to go much, much slower. So here you have it.
Yeah. So I talking about other tools, I feel like mentioning the Brave browser. So it's built on Chromium, but it has an integrated ad blocking features, which lets you block ads completely or replace annoying ads with decent ads, because the internet probably needs ads to continue to be free. And it supports tab sessions. So you can have 10 different sessions in one window. So you could be logged into 10 different Office 365 tenants in one window, instead of having 10 different profiles of Chrome running. And for me, that's a huge improvement for managing different customers.
Yeah, I do use Brave. Brave has this thing. I don't know how to call it. Every browser has its thing. In Brave, this thing is when script closes the window, like the window comes up and the script goes close window, right? Do something, close window, like customizations, publish customizations, close the window that pops up. Brave does everything except closing the window. So you end up with this blank window sitting in the middle of your screen, and you don't know, has it finished? It has it? And then you have to close those windows. So that's my only gripe with Brave. There are a couple UI quirks, but yeah, I use it every now and then. So for session management in particular.
Let's see, Guido and Mr. Viking, we appreciate you joining us today. Marius, it's great to have you as MVP. Hopefully, it's an enriching experience for you, and hopefully, you won't be the only Norwegian MVP for long. This has been CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast, with Business Solutions MVPs George Dubinsky, Joel Lindstrom, and Sean Tabor. This podcast is a production of Dynamic Podcasts, LLC. Follow us on Twitter at CRM Audio. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, or any place else that fine podcasts are available. You can email us at voice@crm.audio with questions or topic suggestions.